Previously, this door had led to a changing room. This time, a different space lay beyond. A small space where one could chat or undergo psychological assessments before a counseling session. It was simple and cozy, with a few ivory-colored wooden chairs and a cypress table, giving it a rustic charm. However, the actual counseling room's door was firmly shut. A sign was taped to it.
Please take your nameplate back with you.
Wait, if that's the case. A young man, wearing a bright and kind expression, stood there, having just tapped my shoulder. He smiled like a benevolent host and gave a slight bow.
What a coincidence. The Fox counseling room is closed today, so we won't be interrupted. Isn't that just perfect?
How the hell did he know the counseling room was closed? It almost feels like he has some kind of connection to this place. Better not dig into that. I needed to keep my focus. Right now, my priority was recovering my company points.
Shall we take a seat?
I took a seat across from the director in one of the comfortable waiting room chairs. The whole situation felt completely surreal. I poured some of the green tea provided in the waiting room and placed it in front of him. Director Ho thanked me, but said nothing further. He's waiting for me to start the conversation.
Director, I can't help but feel hesitant about joining your project. I wonder if I'd even be suitable.
Oh my, to think you'd feel that way. What exactly is concerning you? Over the phone, it sounded like you were interested.
Right now, I'm not involved. If I refused to return, I'd remain a civilian, which meant the director didn't have as much leverage over me as before. I had more room to push back. Folding my hands together, I spoke.
Yes. I'm afraid of dying, sir. Losing my points would be painful, but if I die before I can collect them, it would mean nothing. If this project is more dangerous than the field exploration team, then I don't see the point in taking the risk. Frankly, I'm considering only two options. Either I return to my original position, or that I'll resign entirely.
You're truly smart.
But his face remained unreadable, his expression as earnest and good-natured as ever.
And I think that's a very good question. Is Director Ho's classified project more dangerous than the field exploration team? My answer to that is, it's not dangerous. In fact, you could even say that it has a higher survival rate. Oh, of course, some tasks could be riskier depending on circumstances. But at the very least, the job I'm offering you right now, it's nowhere near fatal.
I assume you can't provide more specifics.
That's right. This is all I can share for now.
Director Ho looked at me with a seemingly regretful expression before adding in a soft tone.
But I can assure you that your circumstances will be much better, and that this job has a higher survival rate than your previous one. So, will you be joining the project now? Just a heads up. After this, our team will be finalized, and we likely won't be able to take on new members.
So this was my last chance. I looked at Director Ho, deliberately hesitated for a few seconds as if I were deeply contemplating my decision. Not I will, but I want to. A phrase that left me with room to back out at the last moment. Fortunately, Director Ho didn't seem to mind. In fact, he clapped in delight. He was so pleased that he even refilled my cup and placed fresh green tea in front of me. It didn't feel like a gesture of kindness. It sent a chill down my spine.
You've made a truly excellent decision. Really, I told you. The working conditions have actually improved.
The working conditions, you say?
Yes, it'll be much more comfortable for you.
Director Ho took a sip of tea and smiled, his eyes narrowing.
After spending a month in that darkness, you must have endured quite the ordeal. It would be difficult for you to enter another high-grade darkness so soon.
His voice remained warm and gentle, as if he were just looking out for me.
So I thought, why not try something fun instead?
Something about that phrasing. There was a strange nuance to it.
Something fun, sir.
Yes? In other words, the job I'd like you to do is...
And then, as if it were the most casual thing in the world, Director Ho revealed the utterly ridiculous task for Supervisor Kim Soleum that he had in mind.
I need you to infiltrate the Disaster Management Bureau. I suppose you could call it spying.
Director Ho gave me a playful wink.
You'll be slipping in under the identity of a newly recruited agent. It'll be a completely clean record, and you'll be officially hired. You'll blend in, live among them as an agent, and then you'll retrieve information on a specific supernatural disaster they manage. Simple, right?
And what exactly is this supernatural disaster you want me to investigate, sir?
Director Ho raised an eyebrow slightly, before giving me another good-natured, amused smile.
Not questioning how to do it, but rather asking what the target is first. Just as I expected. We'll go over that later. The first priority is ensuring your successful infiltration.
His gaze shifted, subtly assessing me.
And personally, I don't think there's a better candidate for this job than you, Soleum Nim.
Had he figured it out? That I already had some level of connection with the Disaster Management Bureau? That I even possessed an item from their organization? I forced myself not to think about the silver heart still resting in my pocket. For some reason, it seems like Director Ho Yuwon has a deep grudge against the Disaster Management Bureau. For now, it was best to keep my mouth shut. And just when I thought the surprises were over...
Oh, and since I figured it'd be a bit lonely for you to go in alone, you won't be infiltrating by yourself.
Who else is going in, sir?
For a moment, I thought of Assistant Manager Yoon Ha-jae. But the answer I received was something I never could have predicted.
2 of your fellow new hires will be going in with you. Would you like to see for yourself?
Director Ho handed me a document, most of it blurred out except for the names and department affiliations. I glanced at the page.
Field Exploration Team, R Squad, Go Youngjun employee. Field Exploration Team, F Squad, Jang Hyun.
The only 2 names among my peers who might actually be able to blend into the Disaster Management Bureau.
Well then, Soleum C. I'll be looking forward to your spectacular performance as a spy for the Disaster Management Bureau.
The night Kim Soleum agreed to infiltrate the Disaster Management Bureau as a spy. At that same moment, in his unit at the company housing, Baek Deok-soo was thoroughly enjoying the greatest luxury of his recent life. Namely, the fact that his psycho roommate had disappeared. That bastard always sticking his nose where it didn't belong. Baek Deok-soo figured that guy would end up dead one of these days. He grinned with deep satisfaction. Sure, that lunatic's near-identical counterpart, D-Squad's crazy squad leader, had relentlessly hounded him for interviews about the Tamara Express. And yes, as a result, he had suffered through some truly horrifying, deepened contamination. But things had settled down now. He could even think about such great talk. Fuck, whatever it was, without throwing up or going out of his mind. Which meant he could finally access the Fox counseling room. Thanks to the intervention of D-Squad's section chief, Baek Deok-soo had been able to secure a Fox counseling room nameplate just for himself. That alone was a huge win. And the best part? That creepypasta therapist always handed out extra nameplates after a session. Thanks to the treatment he received at the company, he had permission to use the service until he had sufficiently recovered.
I could always hand one off to someone else if I play my cards right.
At this rate, he could milk this for at least 3 more months, right up until he could get promoted. But before that tonight, he would use it himself. Humming to himself, Baek Deok-soo strode over to the room of his dearly departed roommate and placed the nameplate on the door. But as he pushed it open, a sharp-eyed office worker with dark hair stood just beyond the threshold, speaking to him casually.
They're closed today.
And then he stepped out of the room, a face Baek Deok-soo would never, ever be able to forget. His former roommate, officially missing and presumed dead, looked at him. Baek Deok-soo's mind whirled into overdrive. Had he unknowingly stumbled into a hypnosis-based darkness? Because if not, then why the hell was a presumed dead, missing lunatic casually walking out of the Fox counseling room? Baek Deok-soo slapped himself. He could feel the pitying stare of a certain someone, watching him like he was an idiot who had just punched himself in the face.
I get why you were trying to book a session, but I'm telling you, they're closed today. Take your nameplate off and try again later.
Kim Soleum fully stepped out of the room and shut the door behind him. Then, with undeniable physical and not spiritual force, he ripped the nameplate off the door and tossed it back at Baek Deok-soo. On reflex, he caught it.
But, of all times, you just had to open the door now. Didn't think I'd be running into you.
Baek Sehyun swallowed hard. His mind was spinning, scrambling to process the sheer absurdity of the situation. But amidst the shock and confusion, one realization hit him with absolute certainty. It was a persistent glow shown in his vision, right behind his eye patch. Internal warning alarms blared.
I just saw something I wasn't supposed to see.
If a company-declared deceased employee was standing in front of him, alive and well, that meant there was some kind of cover-up at play. Either at the corporate level or something even bigger.
And they used me as a witness for his disappearance.
Baek Sehyun forced himself not to think about the horrifying, mind-warping pressure he had experienced when they interrogated him about Kim Soleum's last known whereabouts. His head throbbed with a cocktail of anger, unease, and pure survival instinct. But above all else, a warning blared inside his skull.
Wait, but if this psycho bastard is standing here alive, should I even be seeing this? The most efficient way for a psychopath to eliminate a loose end would be—
Baek Sehyun immediately corrected his own insane train of thought. It was the modern era. Who the hell resorted to something so primitive?
and this bastard still has my mind control fountain pen.
The very item he had traded this eye for. Right. This guy would surely brainwash Baek Sehyun right here and now. They could just both live their lives while pretending that this never happened. Such a simple solution was available for them here, so there's no need for.
You want me to erase your memory with the pen, don't you?
Baek Sehyun's thoughts ground to a screeching halt.
I'm not gonna do that, though.
Baek Sehyun's mind raced through possible courses of action. Punching, using his special equipment, calling for help, begging for his life. And the moment he considered them, he dismissed them all. If he made a wrong move, there was no telling what this lunatic might do. As much as he hated to admit it, Kim Soleum was as ruthless and efficient as a true psychopath should be. If he wanted to avoid getting dragged into some deeper hell, or worse, getting outright killed, he had to stay calm.
What the hell does this psycho bastard want? Was he actually here to kill me?
A flash of realization struck Baek Sehyun as he rearranged the pieces in his mind.
This guy wants something.
That bastard was standing in front of him because there was something he wanted. Baek Sehyun forced himself to steady his breathing. He crossed his arms, barely managing to look like he was composed.
So, I take it you're here because you want something, Supervisor? Ah, do you need my eyewitness account or something like last time? You want me to report to the company that I think I might have seen you at the company housing?
Baek Sehyun swallowed the curses threatening to spill out and forced himself to keep a straight face. Kim Soleum, on the other hand, was watching him in quiet amusement. Now that Baek Sehyun looked closer, this guy was still wearing formal attire, but his hair was slightly shorter and he had a splint on one arm. He wasn't in perfect condition then. Where the hell did he get injured? And even his suit, it was slightly different. It looked oddly high-end. Not the kind of thing a regular office worker would wear. It was tailored, stylish, almost like something meant to be seen.
Like something a person would wear on TV.
Something about that thought almost connected. And then Soleum spoke.
You seem pretty greedy when it comes to items. You don't care for scraps. You want the good stuff. Hypnosis, suppression, healing. Wouldn't you like to have more useful items like that?
Desire flared, shoving every other thought aside. Baek Sehyun's head shot up. Kim Soleum was grinning.
Then keep me updated on what's happening inside Daydream Inc. Give me regular reports.
He was proposing a deal.
You mean things like high-grade darkness exploration manuals?
Kim Soleum gave him a completely unimpressed look. Yeah, no way he'd be asking for something that boring.
Why would I care about that? Company rumors, staff reassignment, employee gossip. Just bring me anything that you think would be valuable to an insider. Because I'm curious?
Baek Sehyun barely stopped himself from screaming his head off. If it were any other human being, this would be an obvious bluff, a way to avoid admitting the real reason. But this was Kim Soleum. Shit, he might actually be telling the truth. It was entirely possible that this lunatic just enjoyed hearing company gossip and was trying to get his fix. Which made it even harder to figure out what the hell was going on in his head.
So? Are you going to bring me information in exchange for item? I can bring it, sure.
Baek Sehyun made up his mind. If the company found out, he could just say he'd been threatened or brainwashed. Simple. As long as he wasn't selling company masks or dream essence collectors on the black market, the higher-ups wouldn't really care what the field exploration team got up to. Answering a few casual questions about company atmosphere? That wasn't even a crime. Sure, the company had misunderstood and officially declared Kim Soleum dead. But how was that his problem? There was no way this would get him fired.
It's not like I'm selling classified research to the Disaster Management Bureau or something, right?
He wasn't even a section chief, and he had no access to the research team's secrets. Nothing that would actually put him in trouble. Yeah, no matter how much he thought about it, this was a deal worth taking. And as much as he hated to admit it, Kim Soleum wasn't the type to scam people out of their payment. He never shortchanged people or humiliated them by withholding promised rewards. Eat now, think later. As soon as he saw an opportunity, Baek Deok-soo's usual cocky smirk slid back into place.
But, you see, Supervisor. Goodness. You're not even a supervisor anymore, are you?
Anyway, how do I know you can trust me with this? What if I just lie to you?
Translation: hand over an item in advance if you want to buy my loyalty. Kim Soleum smiled broadly.
Oh, you want to lie? That sounds fun. You should try it. Still, if you bring in more interesting information, naturally, the items I give you will be better. That's how transactions work, right?
So he wasn't planning on lowballing him, which meant if Baek Deok-soo played this right, he could actually get some useful shit out of this. So he forced a grin and extended his hand.
All right, sir. I'll bring you some interesting information.
Kim Soleum shook his hand. Just like that, he had successfully planted a highly opportunistic corporate informant within the company. Kim Soleum let out a quiet sigh of relief. Unofficial informant. Secured. Director Ho had deliberately framed the conversation to make it seem like he and his fellow batchmates would be on the same playing field, trying to obscure the reality of the situation. But Kim Soleum knew. He and his fellow employees were not in the same position at all. I'm the only one who's officially pronounced dead. And on top of that, he was terminated from the company, which meant that every natural channel through which he could have kept up with company affairs had been completely cut off. And Director Ho is the kind of boss who would happily exploit that isolation. Kim Soleum recalled Assistant Manager Unhaje's words perfectly.
I don't even know what the other team members are doing. Director Ho doesn't allow us to talk to each other if our roles don't overlap.
There was no way Director Ho would voluntarily provide him with any useful information, which meant he needed another source, but not the D-Squad. Director Ho had already caught on to that link. The way he had sent the doorplate through Assistant Manager Unhaje was proof enough. It was too obvious. That was why Kim Soleum had already been planning to target either Baek Deok-soo or Kang Yi-hak, and the situation had just played out perfectly. Honestly, Kang Yi-hak, I could already imagine it. I could pay her to keep her mouth shut, but if the price is right, she'd sell me out in a heartbeat. Just thinking about it made him break into a cold sweat. That's why Baek Deok-soo was the better choice. This guy was moderately scared of Kim Soleum and was also wary of other people. On top of that, he had strong survival instincts. Kim Soleum glanced at his former roommate one last time before giving a small nod.
What? Oh, you seem busy.
Soleum nodded again at Baek Deok-soo's half-hearted response. He had less than a few weeks before his deployment to the Disaster Management Bureau. He needed to prepare, not as a Daydream Inc. rookie, but as a bureau agent.
Agent Bronze, the aptitude test for new recruits is ready.
Ryu Jaekwon, an agent of the Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau with the codename Bronze, stood by the glass window, reviewing the documents in his hands. The glass was one way. To those on the other side, it would appear as nothing more than a mirror. Beyond it, the candidates for the Bureau's newest recruitment cycle were waiting. Seated around the room, their faces carried an unmistakable tension. Yet beneath it, there was a quiet determination. All that remained was the personality test. And yet, this was the most critical stage of the process. Those who fail the aptitude test won't just be rejected. They'll forget they even applied in the first place. They wouldn't be given a second chance, because failing meant there was no point in trying again. It meant they were either psychologically unfit to handle the work, or that they possessed a morally compromised sense of ethics. Either way, such individuals could never be allowed to work here. Still, Ryu Jaekwon was aware. Most of the people sitting in that room had their own reasons for being here. Some were searching for missing family members. Some had supernatural threats they needed to eliminate. For those applicants, more than anyone, he quietly hoped they would pass. Of course, Bronze wasn't the type to go easy on anyone. No matter what he personally felt, his strict evaluation criteria would not be changing. The assistant examiners sitting beside him swallowed nervously. They were acutely aware of Agent Bronze's reputation.
I heard he's seriously strict about his passing criteria.
Too bad for the applicants in this room.
The assistant examiners exchanged glances before proceeding with the aptitude test, following Agent Bronze's instructions.
Group DA candidates 1 through 4, please step forward.
The announcement echoed through the room beyond the glass. 4 final candidates stepped into the center of the room. Candidate 1, age 25, visibly tense. Candidate 2, age 38, appearing calm but unnaturally pale. Candidate 3, age 31, eyes burning with intensity. And Ryu Jaekwon barely stifled a choking cough. For a moment he thought he must be hallucinating, but no. The reflection in the glass remained unchanged. A face he had unexpectedly seen far too many times from within supernatural phenomena. That peculiar yet virtuous person. Standing directly across from the mirror, adjusting his glasses awkwardly while looking a little tense. The former Daydream Inc. employee. He was candidate D4 for the Supernatural Disaster Management Bureau's Group DA selection. Ryu Jaekwon remembered clearly. The mountain lodge where serial murders occurred. The person who, despite being caught up in that horrific disaster, managed to find clues to prevent further killings, and even tried to save the true culprits. The one who possessed the silver heart.
People were hidden away while we staged their deaths. Using real body parts meant no one suspected anything. I figured the real killer might get flustered and stay quiet if I acted first.
And also the devotion and sacrifice he had shown in that strange nightmare of a school. Sekwang Technical High School.
I did acquire a name tag, but I no longer have it in my possession. I gave it to the person who was alive in the classroom.
Ryu Jaekwon, who had seen all kinds of people at the Disaster Management Bureau, was at a loss for words at such unwavering choices. Of course, at the same time, he had also learned the shocking truth that the owner of the Silver Heart was not an innocent civilian. A person treated as a mere tool by an immoral, insane pharmaceutical company. A foolish and selfish office worker, enthralled by the absurd promise of a wish ticket like a cult follower. The fact that Ryu Jaekwon had even given such a person a temporary agent badge was enough to send chills down his spine. It had been, without a doubt.
You two, leave me here.
Sometimes a person's actions reveal more than any description ever could. Even with a hole torn through his stomach, he had prioritized his colleagues' safety and the security of the agent traveling with them. Now, that very man was standing beyond the glass, applying for the Disaster Management Bureau's agent exam. But strangely, something about him felt different.
Why won't he meet my eyes?
Kim Soleum had always appeared neat and composed, even during their past encounters. Even when he had been pulled into that nightmare as a high school student, his appearance had remained meticulous. But now, the person beyond the glass had unkempt, disheveled hair and kept his head down, glasses barely sitting on his face. Like someone experiencing their first ever job interview, overwhelmed by the crowd, someone who had suffered a significant mental blow and had withdrawn into himself. Yet, Ryu Jaekwon only narrowed his tired, wary eyes through the glass.
No employment history with Daydream Inc.
The name stamped clearly on the personnel file in his hands. Apart from a brief record from his university years, the work history section was completely blank. Ryu Jaekwon clenched his jaw.
Is he infiltrating as a spy for that cult-like company?
It was possible. No, highly likely.
Did he really think I wouldn't recognize his name and shamelessly apply?
As if assuming he wouldn't be noticed. He needed to be thoroughly investigated. He couldn't afford to be deceived by appearances.
Candidates 1, 2, 3, 4. Attach the oxygen masks in front of you in order.
The applicants hesitantly reached for the oxygen masks laid out in the center of the room, blood-stained, with snapped tubing, as if someone had deliberately sabotaged them. They shouldn't have been functional. Yet, inexplicably, the indicator lights flickered on successfully. The candidates swallowed hard. But none of them refused. Each one strapped the oxygen mask to their face. A cold chill ran through their hands and feet.
These oxygen masks originate from a supernatural disaster. Improper use can lead to horrifying consequences. From this moment on, whenever you lie, you will be supplied with something other than oxygen.
Beyond the glass, the applicants flinched and squeezed their eyes shut, dread creeping over their expressions. Even Candidate 4, Kim Soleum, shrank back slightly. Yes, he should be afraid. Especially if he had infiltrated this place to engage in something as despicable as espionage.
Speak only the truth.
A psychological aptitude test, using the power of a supernatural phenomenon, authorized for limited use by the Disaster Management Bureau. A tool to discern malice. A process designed to unmask criminals. An essential safeguard for ethical integrity. Ryu Jaekwon stared through the glass. The agent candidates sat frozen, their faces stiff beneath the oxygen masks.
We will now begin the questioning. From this moment forward, you must choose one of the 4 agent candidates here to eliminate. This is a necessary action to resolve a supernatural disaster. State who you will kill.
The candidates' lips trembled in shock. No one had answered yet. But in the observation room beyond the mirror, the interviewers were already receiving responses.
Kill someone? Are they insane?
Who should I pick? Maybe saying I can't kill anyone is the right answer? No, do agents need to be ruthless? Ah, shit.
What the fuck? Are they being for real right now? Should I check the person next to me first?
Each thought was neatly transcribed on the screen, listed alongside their assigned numbers. Instead of displaying pulse readings as the device was originally designed to do, the output screen revealed something abnormal. Sharp crimson text. Their inner thoughts.
The truth respirator. A residual phenomenon left behind after clearing a high-level supernatural disaster, the last confession, which had occurred at a nursing facility in Gangwon-do.
And while the method was ethically questionable, the Disaster Management Bureau had long since adopted similar aptitude tests as standard practice. Because if they failed to screen candidates properly, a catastrophe could unfold. The interviewers, their expressions cold and unflinching, read and assessed the candidates' unspoken thoughts: panic, hesitation, resentment. Candidate Ts 4, Kim Soleum. Nothing appeared on the screen. He simply sat there in complete silence, the oxygen mask securely fastened to his face.
Is he frozen in shock?
Look at him, his head's down. Seems like he has no guts.
Ryu Jaekwon maintained his composure and picked up the microphone again.
Candidates 1, answer.
The young man, who had been darting his eyes nervously, straightened his back and spoke.
For the safety of the majority, sometimes cruel decisions must be made. I will volunteer myself to be killed.
No way I can do it. But if I convince myself I can die, that must be the right answer, right? That's why they're asking. Panic. Lack of critical thinking. Extreme compliance.
Candidate 1, remove your oxygen mask and stand by.
Candidate 1 stood in a daze, then, realizing what had happened, shakily removed his mask and stepped back.
Wait, shouldn't we reconsider and give him another question?
Agent Bronze's judgment has never been wrong. Just watch.
He always passes the right people.
As if to prove the point, the aptitude test continued without pause.
Candidate Tech 2, answer.
I would choose someone close to me and ensure the process is as quick and humane as possible, prioritizing a painless method.
He wondered if it was too obvious, but it felt like the safest answer. There was no way he would say outright who he would kill while everyone was listening.
Remove your oxygen mask and stand by.
In an instant, the second elimination was complete. Candidate 3 lifted his head, sweat beading on his forehead, but there was a certain confidence in his expression.
I will not kill anyone. There's always a plan B. There must be another way out. We can find a way for everyone to escape.
Candidate 3 collapsed mid-sentence. His oxygen mask, which had been stained and damaged moments before, was now spotless and brand new. His face had gone completely pale. The interviewers, their expressions cold, read the blazing red text on the screen, the true feelings he himself hadn't even realized he was suppressing. Candidate 3 was left sprawled on the floor. Inside the room, the last remaining agent candidate sat frozen in place, awaiting his turn. Only one person still had his oxygen mask on.
To eliminate the dangerous anomaly, which of the 4 people here will you choose to kill?
Ryu Jaekwon stared at Kim Soleum through the glass. How would this former employee of an unethical pharmaceutical company answer? Would he perhaps try to sound more cunning this time? Or maybe more virtuous.
The one who has already collapsed.
For the first time, someone had been explicitly named. The interviewers widened their eyes and waited for further explanation. Candidate 4 remained silent, head lowered.
Is that the end of your response? Do you have anything more to explain?
Candidate 4 hesitated so much it was agonizing before finally speaking, his voice barely above a whisper.
Well, in the scenario you described, it seems like we 4 are responsible for this disaster, somehow. If the disaster can only be stopped by the death of one of us, then that must mean we're fundamentally tied to the cause of it. Like, maybe we triggered it by interfering with something we shouldn't have. Is this the right answer?
Candidates are not permitted to ask questions.
Candidate 4 mumbled, still keeping his head down, almost as if he was embarrassed to be saying something.
Then, yes, that's my reasoning. I chose the easiest target, the one who's already incapacitated. However, if we had even the slightest extra time, I'd do my best to find another option.
It was a predictably moral answer.
Because life is precious. It's difficult and painful to decide someone's worth based on sheer numbers, or on who is more valuable.
But his tone had a strange kind of conviction.
Still, if no alternative exists within the given time frame, and if there's a high likelihood of mass casualties, then there may be no choice.
For the first time, Kim Soleum raised his head. Through his glasses, his eyes remained sharp, even after passing through 2 layers of barriers. And then his inner thoughts appeared on the screen.
But if possible, I want to save them all.
It was exactly the ideal response that the Disaster Management Bureau wanted from its agents. To follow regulations in unavoidable disaster scenarios, while still keeping a moral compass intact. Candidate 4 quickly lowered his gaze again, as if nothing had happened. The interviewers exchanged silent nods of admiration.
His ethics and judgment are sound, and his reasoning is...
Ryu Jaekwon barely stopped himself from crumpling the papers in his grip.
What? Wait, interviewer?
Ignoring the other interviewers, Ryu Jaekwon forced the test into a second round of questioning, a step only taken in cases where a candidate's assessment remained unclear.
You are trapped in a supernatural disaster. You can only send one person to safety, either the most virtuous candidate in this room or your closest friend.